brokers here in Lethbridge, and I love putting on this show for you so that we can learn from business owners and learn about their journey into ownership and find out what their secret sauce is, and hopefully inspire you to take that leap into ownership yourselves. We have an amazing guest today. She's worked in the coaching industry, has developed her own brand, and found a very special niche market to work in. We're going to learn all about it. I'm very excited to welcome Tina to the show. Thank you so much, Tina, for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. I was really stunned when I read your mission statement on your website that your purpose, that your driving force behind your business is aligning purpose with your business.
Yeah, definitely. It's not necessarily the thing I started with, probably, because I started my business 20 years ago now. But over the years, and as I've continued to develop and evolve what my business has looked like, that's become a really important piece of it. It's kind of like, if we're going to work this hard, it may as well be for a reason, it's just, and I've also seen for myself and the clients I've worked with over the years, when we just really own our purpose, our strengths, who we are, and bring that into our business. I mean, yeah, that's the fun part. That's where it works too. That's where things actually work the best, I find, for people.
So where they might not necessarily, because a lot of the times when you're in business, you're just getting there's this obstacle after challenge after obstacle after challenge, and sometimes you sort of wonder wow, what's, what am I doing? Is this my right path? And so,
well, I talk, when I work with my clients, we call that the, I think I want to go get a job days, where it's okay, I'm doing this, and that continues even throughout the business journey, not just in the early days, but there's always moments that can be challenging and such. And if we don't have a strong enough purpose, why, etc., behind what we're doing, then it's hard to get through.
It is really hard to get through. Yeah. So how did you develop your own sense of purpose and why in your business?
I would say, I didn't have a clue in the beginning, but one thing I landed on relatively early in my business journey was just being able to see and honor my strengths. I started my business in 1999. I started as a coach, realized very quickly I had no clue how to build a coaching business, and I had no clue how to get clients. I had no clue how to do anything. And I ended up getting a contract of sorts, working with a large coach training organization at the time, and very quickly realized I loved the behind the scenes, the back end of the business. I love being in there and digging in and being a part of getting things done. And when I embraced that, it was oh, that's what I love to do. I thought I was going to be off doing this other thing at the time, but then really realized this is what I'm good at, this is what comes naturally, this is, I can really see and feel that I'm making a difference here. And so that's what led to what became a brand, my brand that you mentioned earlier, of one arm of my business is training and certifying people to become online business managers. And that was the precursor to developing that brand, was, oh hey, I'm doing this work behind the scenes. I'm working with these business owners, these 6- and 7-figure business owners at the time, to help them run and grow and expand their business. I liked being behind the scenes. I liked doing all that stuff. And so it kind of was, the best way I know to describe it was almost a little bit of following a trail of breadcrumbs. What's showing up here? What do I like? What's clicking? What's not clicking? What are people asking for? Where can I make the biggest difference? Versus having some really pre-planned, etc. Thing that came into play.
Yeah, because you really went, when you started, you mentioned you were a coach, which is, that your coach is somebody that you respect and someone who is, you're accountable to.
Yeah.
That's very different from where you ended up working with online business management, which is a lot more strategical and a lot more implementation.
Yeah, it's very similar, the way I equate it to the regular world, or the offline world of what an online business manager is, or what an OBM is. It's very equivalent to office manager, COO, ops management, or ops director, really fits into that category of, and then specializes in working with other online or virtual based businesses. And that piece of, so for me to own that for myself, I spent the first 10 years of my business essentially I was working as what ultimately became an online business manager. I was working that way with clients for that first season of my business and loved doing the work and was really good at it, and lots of great clients, lots of great stuff that, lots of great experiences in that time frame. And then about 10 years ago now, just over 10 years ago now, I had people coming to me and asking for, there was two things that happened. People would come and say, Tina, I need to hire somebody who does what you do. I had kind of made the OBM thing up. I made it up in the sense that I didn't know what the heck else to call myself. Some people may be familiar with the world of virtual assistants and VAs and such, and that world was very much in existence at that point already. But I knew the work I was doing wasn't VA work, it wasn't assistant work, it was more management, etc. level work. And so I had started calling myself an OBM, for lack of a better term.
Well, it's fantastic because you know exactly what you do. It's an online business manager. Okay, I can understand what that is a little bit more than. So you picked the perfect name, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward,
yes.
Right? Oh, that's what it is. But I had people about 10 years ago start asking me, okay, I need to hire somebody who does what you do. And other people were like, I want to do what you do. And, it took some nudging and prodding and, butt kicking, in particular from a friend of mine, Andrea, who's been a longtime friend and essentially coach for me as well, too. But that led to me writing a book on how to become an online business manager. That led to me creating our OBM Association, which is a global association. That led to me creating a training and certification program for people who wanted to and still want to become and work as an online business manager. And so my purpose at that time kind of shifted, really. But again, it was still just very natural to what was showing up for me. It was, I would say in particular, and I think this can be really key to embrace to a degree when you're getting started, is I never had some great big plan for my business. I am a fan of planning in general, and that's part of what, we help people with and teach people to do and everything. But when it comes to starting our own business, sometimes it's a matter of I'm going to try something. I'm going to test something out, especially from a side gig. Let me put some feelers out. Let me try a few things with people. It's okay to just kind of make it up as you go.
Yeah,
a little bit in the beginning. Yeah,
and especially when you're open to being so responsive to what your customers are saying.
Yeah,
and to what opportunities are presenting themselves, and being able to think, okay, this maybe isn't originally what I expected or what I thought was going to happen, but I'm going to go I'm going to go down this path and see where it leads. Yeah, a little bit.
Totally.
Yeah. So can you share a little bit with our audience about what I guess if I wanted to become an OBM, what kind of qualities and strengths would you look for in a candidate?
Yeah, it's that idea of whenever somebody's sharing an idea or talking about an idea, your brain automatically goes to, okay, we would need to do this, and we would need to do that, and we would need that, and this, and that, and that. You can't turn that off. People who go this path or come into our certified OBM community, they're just very naturally organized. You can be driven by fixing the chaos. That was one of my favorite things, and still is, although now I'll put chaos in my own business, which doesn't necessarily help. But one of my favorite things when I was working as an OBM was working with clients where it's ooh, everything's a mess. Let's get this figured out. Let's get this streamlined, and systems and team and various things that they needed. But when that idea kind of thrills you a bit of let me in there, let me fix that, let me clean that up. When I mentioned that I had started doing coaching years ago. I do coaching now again. It's been a bit of a full circle thing for me. But when I first started that about 20 years ago, part of the frustration that came up for me was I was working with clients, and we would talk about what they were going to do each week, right? We would, what's going on, what's happening. Okay, between now and our next call, you're going to get X done. And then they wouldn't get X done. And the thing that would go through my mind was oh, just get out of my way. Let me do it for you. It was just sort of let me done and all of that kind of stuff. And, we have a fair amount of people that come into our OBM community that they're coming from backgrounds of like, they've done project management, they've done marketing management, they've, been an executive assistant, they've done tech work, they've done, all kinds of something, but you're not looking to be the face, the one on the stage, the, front and center type person either. Like, it's being behind the scenes, being a part of what's being created, making that impact, making that difference in the business.
And then so that your client can then, maybe take a little bit of, or if not all of the credit for.
Well, and it's really
publicly. Like,
this
has that ever been a struggle for you?
Well, not for me per se, because it depends.
Because you know that you're a support role for them to be able to help them thrive and grow and succeed.
Well, and there's some people definitely that might come across that way. Some clients you might work with that way. But there's even more and more, like one of the things I've seen shifting even in recent years is more and more people who are in that more visionary role in businesses, like they're the face and they're the whatever and all that kind of stuff. They're realizing that they need that person with them to grow the business. They need that support on the back end. They need the right team and the right systems and the right structure. And so that understanding and partnership and everything is much more, like when I think back to 10, 15, even 5 years ago, excuse me, sorry, I'm getting over a cold.
Oh, so. That's okay.
Yes, as are probably half the world right now, or half of us in where we are in the world, it's just like, it wasn't necessarily the same a number of years ago, because people were a little bit like, I'm just doing, and it would come quite often from the perspective, and again, this is why clients need to hire an OBM. There's a lot of people who can start those like forward-facing businesses. They can write books, they can be speakers, they can do trainings, and especially online nowadays, there's lots of stuff that we can be doing. But there's just, that doesn't mean they understand what it takes to run and grow a business.
That's right.
Too, right? And so what'll happen with clients who hire an OBM, and this may be some of you too, right? They're in this space. It's like, we go out there, we do our thing, we're like, yay, we're making money and it's working, and people are, hiring us or buying books or whatever it is, buying courses, and then the business gets to a certain point, and it's like, oh, yikes, I have a business. Like, what do I do to run this thing? I talk about that from the perspective of, okay, this business is getting bigger than me, just kind of doing my thing and showing up and making some money. So people are really, as businesses have continued, and particular online virtual based businesses have continued to expand and grow and evolve, and there's like 6, 7, 8, etc. figure businesses. There's a fair number of those now in the industry. Their understanding of like what they need and who they need and the role and the importance of that has continued to grow with it.
Yeah, and this is really fascinating. I'm excited to ask you quite a few questions, but I think let's have like a little educational moment, shall we?
Sure.
Sure, we'll have a little educational moment for all of you that maybe have never owned a business before. Understanding the hierarchy. It's not that not the hierarchy. Understanding the key roles of a business is very important, especially for a larger company that is producing millions of dollars. When you start off as an owner, you're essentially doing all the roles. But as the business grows, you have to start. Okay, who's in what role? So I would think that would be a big part of your business too, is understanding the whole structure of the organization. Yeah. And understanding like, okay, what is the COO, CEO doing? Yeah. What is marketing doing? Yeah. What about sales? What's sales up to? What about your legal and documentation? Or legal documents are very important for some businesses, and understanding that your contracts are correctly done. Having obviously bookkeeping and accounting is massive. Then you mentioned the role of the visionary. Like the visionary is the person who's able to really see where the business is going to be in 5-10 years, being able to identify areas of opportunity with shifting markets. Yeah. And then I think, is that all the roles, President?
Yeah, I think, and that's part of, too, when you're asking about this question, that's part of where, as I was training and certifying OBMs, about 2 or 3 years into that, I started some training on the side of what you're talking about, working with the business owners. That's part of the coaching work and such I continue to do, because they didn't know what the heck they needed in their business either,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like, and it showed up where OBMs would be working with them, and then the client would be like, they
Yeah.
became the bottleneck and all kinds of stuff that was going on. But I also like to look at it through the lens of there's 3 types of work that need to be done in a business. So there's doing, managing, and leading.
Mm-hmm.
And in the early stages, we are doing it all,
Mhm.
pretty much.
Yes,
you know,
it's
I'm
doing.
a fan of like hire a VA, hire some kind of general admin, day to day, maybe a bit of tech, whatever your business needs. I'm a fan of hiring doing support as soon as you can. As soon as you can, because there's fundamentally things that, even if we're not like, woo, rolling in the dough yet, or reaching
Mhm.
our goals yet, or whatever, there's some things that fundamentally, it's a good idea to get those things off your plate
Mhm.
as early as possible. But so the doing pieces, there's like tech and admin and customer service and just, you know, day-to-day lather, rinse, repeat
Mhm.
type stuff that needs to be done. Those are generally the first things
Mhm.
that we want to get off our plate. And then that management level, which is where someone like an OBM kicks in, is management is really like, okay, is stuff getting done?
Mm.
Are the right things getting done in the right way, at the right time, by the right people? That's how I define management, right? So as a business grows, and for most people, this is right around the early six-figure mark. So it's kind of that, you know, 100,000 to 250 range for most business owners. That's the part where it's just like, ooh, this thing is getting bigger than me.
Mhm.
You know, and as a default, we keep the management on our plate. Sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it, right? Like it's just part of what we're doing, part of how we're rolling, part of what, it's a habit almost. I remember years ago when I first wrote my online business manager book, so people who wanted to become an OBM would read the book, of course, but other online business owners were reading the book. And I remember a friend of mine, a fellow coach that I knew, she was like, oh my gosh, I get it. She's like, I have VAs and I have people on the team and they're doing work. She's like, but I don't have anybody doing the managing. And like, that's the piece that's driving me nuts. Like, it will take up a lot. It takes time and energy and effort to be managing a growing business, like all the pieces, and making sure stuff's getting done and who's doing what and all that kind of stuff. And so that management level piece definitely kicks in as well, too, at a certain point. And then the leadership piece, that's the visionary work. That's like, who are we? Where are we headed? What are our goals? The leadership of the team is a biggie. That's another area I work with people in a lot. Team leadership generally doesn't come naturally to most of us, because a lot of times we're like, just do what you're supposed to do, you know, come on, kind of thing. Like, we can get in our own way.
Yes, sometimes often we do.
Like, what do you mean you don't know how? Come on, kind of thing. But that leadership piece, ultimately, like as a business grows, that's where, as a business owner, as a CEO, as a visionary, you're going to be spending a lot of time there. You know, and of course, time in things like, depending what your business is, delivery or creation of services and products, you know, relationship building, higher level marketing, and you know, sales and stuff as well generally kick in there. Yeah, that's sort of almost like maybe a trickle up.
A trickle up.
I was going to say
yeah.
trickle down,
The
but
pyramid, it's maybe a trickle
yeah.
up, because you know,
Yeah.
essentially, I really do believe that as an employer, you know, and as a leader, you do work for your employees, not the
Yeah.
other way around.
Well, it's absolutely true at a certain point,
Mhm,
right?
at a
Because
certain
if you don't, you're basically just creating a business, like a job for yourself within your own business.
Yes.
And that's another common thing.
Like where
that'll
like
happen.
the business owner has one specific job for themselves, and they're
Well, you know,
I get it.
I work with a lot of business owners where they've hit that, I call that the bursting point, where it's like, ah! You know, there's too much. Like, and I have people, it's some of my favorite people to work with are the ones that come to me and they're like, if this doesn't change, I'm going to shut this business down because it's sucking the life out of me.
It's sucking the life out of me.
Right?
Yeah.
It's too much. It's whatever. You know, even when they're making money and all kinds of stuff, it's just like, this can't continue this way because everything's still coming to and through them and on their own shoulders, and they're carrying it around and all of that. And so to shift beyond that, that is where the focus shifts. That is where it's like, oh, it's not just me. It's like, now I have a business. Now I have team in whatever form. Now I have, they might be employees or contractors or whoever it is. But that really does change the focus.
Yes, it does. It really does change it. And I have a question for you. Like when you're moving along through your business journey, like when are some good points in time to really revisit your purpose, to revisit, you know, who you are. Because,
Oh.
you know, as a business is growing and changing,
Yeah.
I sometimes find in my own experience as a broker, it's like the business owner takes it as far as they can
Yep.
and maybe hit a bit of a plateau, if you will.
Yep.
And like,
Yeah.
you know, like maybe like often it's at that particular time it would be to focus in back on you and, you know, why
Mhm.
you're in this business and what you're passionate about, so that it helps to
Yeah.
hopefully develop them as a leader a little bit more, and then they're able to, you know, continue in the business growing it and overcome whatever obstacle they're facing, why
Yeah.
it might be that the business has maybe stalled out or running in neutral, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a few, I mean, to look at that yearly, I feel like is a very important thing. Whenever we're doing our yearly planning, which generally, you know, would be towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey, end of 2019, let's look forward to 2020. That's always a really good time to be digging in to some of those purpose and why questions.
Mhm.
Like, you know, okay, because what's important to us will shift and change
Mhm.
over time. You know, we're driven in the three main motivators in business are money, meaning, and freedom.
Money, meaning, and freedom. Oh,
Money,
wow.
meaning, and freedom. So in the beginning, money is the bigger motivation. I mean,
Yeah.
because if we're not making money, we either have an expensive hobby or at the very least we're suffering, right? Like we need to be making money in a business. So that's that first kind of thing to reach. Like when you reach a milestone of like, oh, okay, I'm making some money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not like, sleepless nights or how the heck are we going to make this happen or whatever. When you reach that stage of like, I've proven a business model, we're making some money now, it's all good. That's a space
Mhm.
to revisit things too and be like, okay, how is my motivation potentially going to change moving forward?
Mhm. Because it's true, but actually once you do, it's so true, and I think something that a lot of people that start in business are just so shocked to find out is that, you know, initially you're kind of chasing the money, you're excited, you know, you bring it, you get paid, like it's
Yeah.
like money's flowing in, like it's a great feeling, it's such a, like, wow, this is really happening, you know, but after a while, you'd be amazed, you're like, okay, yeah, you kind of get used to it, and like it's not
Yeah.
as exciting anymore.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's for some people, they're like, oh, where did my excitement go? You know,
Yeah.
all my excitement is gone.
Yeah.
You know, but if you're only focusing on the money, you know, that it's amazing that does actually fade.
Well, and it's the money meaning freedom piece. Like they're all important,
They are.
but different ones are important at different times. Like my main motivator is freedom. I'm just totally, and not just freedom of time. I do have a pretty good schedule and a lot of flexibility. But freedom of like, I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. You know, like to me, that's part of freedom too. That's part of what's really important in my business. And the money is important, of course. I want to make money. I'm not making money, that's a problem. But I will look at when I'm making decisions about my business, because freedom's my main motivator. I will make different decisions
Mhm.
than somebody who maybe money is their main motivator at the time,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Like there's times where I'm like, oh, I could do this, and that, which would bring in a whole bunch of money in some way, but that's going to take away a lot of freedom.
Mhm.
That's going to mean working my ass off. Oh, pardon my French. That's going to mean like just, you know, 24/7 or whatever kind of thing for my schedule. And I'm like, no,
No.
I don't want to do it, you know? So, and then of course the meaning piece, I think a common mistake that can happen in the early days of business is we focus too much on the meaning piece to the exclusion of the money piece, right? Where it's like, I'm here to make a difference, I'm here for a purpose. All those things are important, but if that's like too much of the main motivator to the point where you're not making any money, well then that's a big problem. Like the money needs to be one of the key, it may not be your be all end all motivator, but it needs to be important in the beginning. Most people, for myself personally and clients I've worked with over the years, as they're making money, then they're able to really get that freedom piece nailed down. Like, what am I doing? What am I not doing? What's my schedule like? You know, I'm not working 80 hours a week anymore. I'm back to working normal time or whatever. They can get that freedom piece dialed in. That's where the meaning and the impact piece can kick in even at another level for the most part. So it's important to consider.
You know, I sort of like to
those
think
things.
that's a little bit of a reflection of, you know, of a saying where in life where it's like, you know, you can't help others until you help yourself.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you're personally, from a personal level, if you're feeling personally, empty, it's hard to give and contribute to others. Whereas I sort of see that being a little bit of a mirror in business, where it's like if you are so focused on the meeting, which is so important, but if you don't have that money piece, how are you going to be able to continue on and continue supporting and serving others?
Yeah. Well, the business will die
It will.
if you're not making money. Like, that's just the flat out truth of it.
It is just the flat out truth of it. It is.
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to just sort of shift gears a little bit more, because I'm pretty sure we've got some audience that would love to know a little bit more about the online component of your business.
Okay.
You got started online in the early days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like an old timer.
An old timer.
Online old timer.
No, well, you're the brave trailblazer, I think, is what I would say, because it was at a time when nobody was doing it, nobody understood it. It was confusing. Nobody trusted. Like, it was, like, what was that? What was that like for you in those early days?
It's interesting, because I've worked online and I've worked from home for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
You and I met in an office space,
we
right?
did.
But I've worked from home and such for the most part for that full 20 years. And one of the things that really clicked for me very early on is it's possible to really make connections, have relationships and such with people that aren't in the same room.
I'm so fascinated that you said that, because
Yeah.
when we were talking a little bit earlier, that was exactly what I was thinking about. Like, how do you build that trust with your clients? How do you build those relationships online? Because for me, it's still a little bit foreign. I don't necessarily in this day and age, right? Like, but it's like does it just come naturally? Like, how do people?
I know for me, like, it may not be the choice for everybody too. I also know people who've like worked from home or worked online and such, and they can't stand it, because they want and need to be around people. So there is kind of a natural working style and motivation thing that comes into play for each of us. But I know for me, like, over the, I used to talk on the phone all the time.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager.
Talked on the phone
funny.
all the
My
time.
daughter was doing this yesterday. I was laughing. It's like, now I'm like, ooh, we're officially entering these teenage years. And she was like talking to her friends the other day. But I used to talk on the phone for hours and hours with my friends. And it's no different than that in a way. Like, in the earlier days, we were talking on the phone with each other, right? It was like conference lines and phone and all in our ears, essentially. But even things like messaging, like, messenger things and stuff, online messaging, emails and such were another way we would connect. Nowadays, it's a lot easier because there's so much in video.
Mm-hmm.
Like videos like this, where you're connecting and seeing each other online. Video, when I work with my clients, we use a video conferencing tool. So everybody's seeing faces and we're seeing eyeballs and we're looking in each other's eyes, even though we're not in the same room, same country. Yep. Most of the time, let alone the same room. Those things make a big difference, for sure. And so I think it's just, and at this stage in the game, like the earlier days, I don't know, I didn't even think of it. Like it just worked for me.
It just worked for you, so it was just a natural way for you to communicate.
Because I really felt like they were very real and authentic relationships with people. Like, there was nothing, not every single person I met, of course, but I developed, some of my best friends, some of my strongest colleagues in relationships online, they are online.
Yeah.
Like, they are online. In some cases, I've never even seen these people face to face, right? Or I might not meet them for like 8 years.
You've known them for years, and never met in person.
What? We know. I see your face now.
Oh, what's that experience like, where you've been working closely with someone for 8 years and then you finally meet in person? Like, what's
I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it would be a lot of
fun.
Right?
And the in-person stuff, I still love and enjoy the in-person stuff. But it's also, I think, being a bit of an introvert too, like as a, in the way I'm wired, I'm much more on the introverted side. So I don't mind being at home by myself. Yeah. I actually kind of prefer it.
Yes.
It's, I kind of joke about being like, not like I'm anti-people or anything.
Well, clearly you're not.
I'm like, I don't mind being at home. I'm fine by myself. And these connections, they are still very real connections, which at this stage in the game, we can say whether that's good or bad as far as the world of like being connected that way, personally, business, and otherwise. But yeah, it's still a very real. Like, when we're working with people, we're making an impact, we're getting things done, we're moving things forward. Like, as long as that's true in the business, and we're delivering on a service that we promised and being paid in return, like, as long as that's happening, then it's all good.
Then it's all good. Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. I need to ask how you got your start. Like, how did you get your start? How did you
Yeah.
decide to say, okay, because you were in the working world before being a coach?
Yeah, I was working with, I was working downtown Calgary, and a friend of mine that my sister had introduced me to, he was starting an online business. And this dude was like way ahead of his time. So this is like 19, like you said, back in the olden days.
Well, as soon as you said back in 19, that
Yeah,
was like, that's all you had to say.
At least it was the last year of 1999.
1999.
Yeah, 1999. He was starting, and it was essentially, at that point, I was a 20-something. This was a 20-something community and magazine. Yeah. It was a print magazine. It was an online magazine. It was a community for 20-somethings who wanted to grab life by the balls. Yeah. That was the tagline.
Nice. Grab life by the balls. That's so
funny.
90s.
But he, I was working downtown. I was like marketing whatever for a software company, and being in my 20s, pre-kids. Not married yet or anything even. It was just like this opportunity came up to work with my friend Rob. And I was like, okay, sure, why not? Like, let's see what happens. So that honestly was the start of it. Like, I consider myself an accidental entrepreneur, a business owner, because even to this day, there's much more of a measure of like planning and looking ahead at this stage in the game. But for the first 10 years, none. Like, it was literally just like, oh yeah, this looks cool. Oh, this came up. Yeah. Oh, okay, that looks, okay, let's, like, it was literally just kind of following this trail of breadcrumbs. And then that at a certain point, like, just became like, oh, now what do I want to do with this? And being a little more purposeful. But it really was. Like, it's not like there was some big grand moment.
Oh, okay.
Other than the fact I was bored of working.
For you, the software company,
like,
it wasn't maybe as fulfilling as you thought it was going to be.
No, not at all. No.
So
it definitely wasn't.
That's fantastic. I love how you just followed the breadcrumbs. Sometimes it's just that easy, but you have to be open to pick up the breadcrumb. You can see the breadcrumb, be like, oh, that looks like an interesting crumb, but you have to be willing to actually like pick it up and explore it and
Well, and to bring one of the things I work on with clients too, I always recommend. It's like we also want to bring an experimental mindset, because it can be easy to put too much pressure on like ourselves or the thing or whatever it is. And the truth is, in the early days, you don't know what's going to work yet. Yeah. You really don't know. Or you might be like, oh, I want to go down this path, and be like 6 months, a year down that path and be like, ew, I don't even like this. Like, we don't know until we try and until we put some things on. So to bring that experimental mindset, like allow yourself that freedom to kind of play and try things and test things. I had a conversation with a client the other day who is an OBM. She's become certified and she's just getting started with her business. And she's like, I don't know who my ideal clients are yet. I'm like, well, of course you don't. You haven't worked with anybody yet. It's like you need to go work with, it's like, all right, get your first 3 clients. Work with whoever the heck they are, whatever the heck they're doing. I'm like, I guarantee you once you've done that, then you're going to know more of like, ooh, this is the direction I want to go in. And even more importantly, this is what I don't want to do, or I don't want to go in that direction. So we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves to just, I got to figure it all out now and make it work. And oh, it's got to work in 6 months kind of thing. Like, ugh.
Oh, that is a lot of pressure
and then
to put on yourself.
And
then it's too much pressure. And so, and then you just don't start at all.
Well, that can happen. It'll be like, oh no, I can't. And then we get stuck or stalled or don't start at all. Because like, that's just, that's too much.
It is too much. And thank you so much for sharing that. That it's so true. But kind of building a little bit on that, and we're going to kind of wrap up the show a little bit. I know it goes by so quick, but sort of building on kind of putting so much pressure on yourself to achieve all of these goals. What kind of advice could you offer somebody, who's still in the planning stage of their business?
You need to just be okay with the fact that it's not going to feel comfortable and you're never going to be ready.
You just have to be okay with that.
Yeah, it's another, because I would say 80% of the journey is up here. Like 80% of the journey is up here. And that can include things like, planning and what do I want to create and, being purposeful that way. But it can also include like the worry, doubt, the fear that is now the right time. Should I do it? What if it doesn't work, etc. Like that stuff comes up for pretty much everybody I know. I've known maybe 2 people in my life of being in business that like don't get worried about things. I'm just like, how the heck do you do that? Like, that's just not true. So if you're waiting to like, I'm going to wait till I feel ready. I'm going to wait till I feel confident. I'm going to wait until I've got all my ducks in a row, and I'm going to wait until I know it's exactly going to work and 100%. It's like, then you're just never going to get started. You're never going to get started. So be okay with the fact that you're going to feel uncomfortable. You might have worries and doubts and fears, and you know, you might have like, you might not feel confident. Confidence comes after you do the thing, not before you do the thing, right? So it's, oh, I gotta wait till I feel confident. Well, then you're not gonna ever go because you don't feel confident yet. So we have to be really like okay with the fact that it's meant to be a little scary and challenging. We, in my coaching groups, we talk about the barf moments. Like when my clients come up on something, they're like, "Oh, that makes me want to barf." I'm like, "Yes,
Okay,
now
we're on to something."
Yes, this is the way to go. Like, so to feel that way is a sign to move forward. It's not a sign to stop.
Oh, Tina, you are a fantastic woman. I couldn't have, like you, the way that you just explained all of that was so meaningful and impactful. I have, despite it being really cold in this office, I have chills because it's so true. Like, it's so, such wonderful advice. I appreciate you sharing that with our viewers today. You guys, thank you very much for watching Getting Into Business. I'm your host, Clara Peterloo. We've had a wonderful interview with Tina. Thank you so much, Tina Forsyth, for being on our show. We hope that you spend the day staying warm if you're here in Canada, and it's a perfect day to make a cup of coffee and do some personal development work today.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a perfect day for that.
I agree.
I agree. Thanks so much for watching, and thank you, Jess TV, for hosting Jess FM. We welcome the opportunity to build a community here. Have a great day. I knew we could have talked for like